Our second Distinguished Alumni Award recipient is also this morning's graduation speaker. Claire Sulmers and 2 million of her best friends and followers follows, curates, influences, and promotes multicultural fashion in some of the most exciting and closely watched physical and virtual spaces on the planet. Fashion Bond Daily is Claire's creation and her launching pad, a platform born of persistence, hard work, resilience, and of course, a keen eye for both what is current today and what will be the hottest trend tomorrow. This would be enough to name Claire our distinguished alum, but there's more. She is a published author, an in-demand speaker, an e-commerce entrepreneur, and the leader of a team that is changing what and who is covered in the fashion media. Claire is also a devoted Wildcat. It's one thing to say yes to accepting our Distinguished Alumni Award. It is quite another when that call comes with a request to be our graduation speaker. Claire was as enthusiastic about this second invitation as she was about the first. She crossed the stage herself just 24 years ago, so her story is not even in the middle chapters yet. And so today we get to hear from someone who is both accomplished and still has more to say, more to do, and more reasons for each of us to join 2 million other Claire fans to see what happens next. Claire, congratulations, and thank you for agreeing to be part of this special ceremony today. Our Distinguished Alum Award recipient and graduation speaker is Claire Sulmers.
Good morning. I need a little more energy. Good morning. Hey. All right. Thank you, President Evans. Thank you, Westminster faculty, staff, and parents. And most importantly, thank you to all the bright and brilliant young minds of the class of 2023. Thank you for extending me the tremendous dual honor of not only receiving a Distinguished Alumni Award, but also giving your commencement speech today. It seems like only yesterday I was sitting right where you were. However, 18-year-old Claire would have never been up here speaking to you today. The thought of it would have given me a panic attack. Growing up, I was painfully shy. And when I was a student here, I very rarely spoke up in class. You remember those notes that teachers leave in your report cards? Mine always said the same thing. Claire is a quiet leader, and she needs to speak up more. So when President Evans, called and asked me to give today's commencement speech, the 18-year-old in me wanted to scream, "No!" All the fears, anxieties, and insecurities of looking and sounding silly came flooding back. I thought long and hard about what I wanted to say to you today. And if I could also silence those lingering 18-year-old self-doubts. In preparation for this speech, I came across an old journal entry. And when I say old, I mean probably older than most of you here. And in it I said, "School's going well, but teachers are really pushing me to speak up more. I'm doing it with a little apprehension, but I'm doing it. With a little apprehension, but I'm doing it." I wrote that in September 1998, about a year before I would graduate from Westminster. And like you, I probably had no idea what I wanted to do as a career after I graduated. But when I think about teenage Claire and the Claire you see standing before you today, the through line that connects all my wins and my losses, which I secretly count as wins, is that I always answered the call. You must answer the call on your life. I deeply believe that God gives us all unique gifts and talents, along with a unique assignment that we're set to fulfill during our time on this earth. And our only duty is to answer the call and also give our all to that assignment, whatever it may be. Now, when you have many gifts and talents, this might feel daunting. You might say, well, which one do I pursue? Which one will make me the happiest or the most money? And those are all great questions, but a better one is, what is your light? What is that secret sauce? That one thing that you're good at that no one else can do, or no one else can quite do it like you? What feels right? That is your calling. And if you need some inspiration, hopefully my story can help with that. So I am proud to say that I am the founder and CEO of one of the most powerful fashion companies in the world. Thank you. Okay. Not too shabby if I do say so myself. Fashion Bomb Daily is where you go for red carpet reviews, to see what your favorite celebrities are wearing, fashion news, and so much more. With over 2.1 million Instagram followers that include Cardi B, Kim Kardashian, and SZA, we've solidified ourselves as a foremost thought leader on all things fashion, style, and e-commerce. So how did I get here? Let me paint a little picture for you. So it obviously all started here at Westminster. And we all know that sports are a big deal here in the South. And what's at the top of that list? Football, yes. Football and cheerleading. And it was always my dream to be a Westminster football cheerleader. I tried out my freshman year and I did not make the cut. I was devastated. So that summer, I practiced every day. I drove my mother crazy doing herkies and burpees and toe touches, shaking her house. Imagine the training montage from Creed. That was me. I was so serious. I tried out again my sophomore year and I made the cut, but for JV basketball. And I was not satisfied. Back in the 90s, basketball wasn't seen to be as prestigious as football, and I only wanted the best. I tried out again junior year, and I made varsity basketball. By this time, my mother intervened. She wanted to help me manage my emotions so I wouldn't be heartbroken. She told me, there are lots of talented girls who don't make the cut. But I wasn't trying to hear all that. I wanted to make varsity football no matter what. And guess what? Come senior year, I did it. I accomplished my goal. And it was at that moment I understood that sometimes rejection is simply God's redirection. God heard my prayers, He saw what I wanted, and He didn't say no. Instead, He showed me a different path to get there. But the most important part of the story is I answered the call. And that is the secret to everything. It's how I got from 18-year-old me to the woman you see today. The new path may feel like defeat. It may not be what you originally wanted, and it can be frustrating. But as long as you trust in yourself and in that light within you, and you trust in God's calling on your life enough to answer the call, you'll not only reach your goals, but you'll surpass them. So remember that journal entry I told you about? Writing is one of my oldest and truest gifts. Remember, I was shy to a fault, so reading and writing were my jam, okay? I love to read magazines or write in my journal. Those were my creative outlets. I also think that's why French was so appealing to me, because I love the idea of expressing myself in a foreign language. French was one of my favorite classes here at Westminster, and it was one of my majors when I went on to Harvard. So yes, college. I was excited to go, but I was equally terrified. I remember sobbing on my parents the day that they dropped me off at school. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't know what was next for me. I had this weird idea I wanted to be an international businesswoman, whatever that means. So I did what I had to do, right? I enrolled in economics courses, even though math and numbers have never been my strong suit. Very quickly, I was floundering, and I would have certainly failed if I had stayed in those courses. Thankfully, my brother Andre, who went to Westminster and later on to Harvard, was there to pull me to the side. And he said, when you graduate, no one's going to pay attention to the courses you took. So major in what you love. Granted, this advice was for a different time. You guys are entering a completely different world than the one that I entered when I graduated. The internet wasn't even really a thing. It was just starting, but it's not like how it is today. Whether you pursue higher education or not, whether you choose a traditional career or you create your own, the point remains the same. Will you be able to find your light, your secret sauce? And will you be unswayed by the many redirections you encounter along the way? I dropped economics like a hot potato and quickly enrolled in African American studies and Romance languages and literatures, specifically French. Now, I'm sure you're wondering, what on earth are you going to do with that degree? And you wouldn't be alone. My parents felt the same way. And I was unsure myself. But I knew that my light, my tenacity, and my trust in the process would never let me down. And I would never let myself down. After I graduated, I completed internships at Upscale, New York, and Newsweek magazines. You gotta intern, guys. You gotta do those internships. My life was a revolving door of internships until I landed my first big girl job at Real Simple magazine, which was a popular home magazine. I was in the research and fact-checking department, but you might know me by now. My eyes were set on a different peak. I wanted to work in the fashion department. So growing up, I was obsessed with fashion. I loved seeing all the fabulous clothes in movies, TV shows, and music videos. And fashion and style is in my blood. My grandfather, Hazley Newton, I'm not gonna look at my mom because she's gonna make me cry. Anyway, my grandfather, Hazley Newton, he owned his own tailor shop in Nassau, Bahamas called Bugs the Master's Touch. My mother used to make clothes for me, and she's a graduate of the High School of Fashion Industries in New York. And when my Haitian father, George Sulmers, passed away, I found out via his birth certificate that my grandmother, Odette Rigaud, was a dressmaker or a couturier. So this little light of mine has been in my family for quite some time. But back to my big girl job. So I was busy telling everyone and anyone who would listen of my desire to work in fashion. But they weren't trying to hear me. Finally, I marched right into the fashion editor's office and told her of my dreams, and she very bluntly said, "You don't want to work in fashion. People are mean and judgmental. They'll look you up and down and dismiss you." It was pretty harsh, but she wasn't completely wrong. There are mean people in fashion, and some of them have probably judged me, but none of that mattered to me. After getting shut down by that editor, I felt defeated and stifled. I needed a creative outlet, but it wasn't being given to me. So guess what? I made my own. In 2006, at 25 years old, I created Fashion Bomb Daily, the blog that would change the entire trajectory of my life. I got the name from one of my Westminster high school best friends, Tara, who said that everything that was fly or good was thebomb.com. I put fashion in there, and that's how I got my name. It's okay, you can laugh. When I began blogging, I was doing it as a way to showcase my writing skills, my calling, and my passions for fashion and style, my light. This was before the age of the influencer. Websites weren't really a thing yet. This was even before TikTok and Instagram. Can you imagine? There was no template for what I was doing and no one I could look to for advice or a blueprint on how to succeed. I was also doing this in hopes to get noticed by the big names like Vogue, Elle, Harper's Bazaar. But when I would send in my cover letter and resume, I would get rejection after rejection after rejection. I felt defeated, and it was probably the lowest point in my life. I couldn't understand why my amazing education hadn't opened every single door I knocked on. I thought, I got the fancy degree, I went to the fancy school, it should be smooth sailing now. I had to learn that the work never stops. The discipline to learn and fine-tune your craft is what will separate you from the herd. Your light may be something innate to you, something passed down, or something you're wildly good at. But don't ever get complacent with your talents. Don't ever take a backseat in your life. I want you to remove the word expert out of your vocabulary because there is always, always, always something else to learn. At 28, I took another leap of faith. I was frustrated at my job, so I quit. And I moved to Paris, the city of lights, to put my French degree to some use. I knew exactly one person there, and I had approximately $2,000 saved. This was probably the biggest risk I had ever taken in my life. I felt the fear and self-doubt come galloping back. I can see in people's eyes their own skepticism and doubts in me and my plan, but I knew that this was my path and this was my calling. So as I'm in Paris, I'm blogging every day because we call it Fashion Bomb Daily, not Fashion Bomb whenever you feel like it. And I took it very seriously, like a job. The time difference between Paris and the United States meant that I could work a gig during the day to pay my bills and blog in the evenings. I spent the weekends batching and scheduling content, and I was hustling around the clock. I eventually landed an internship, yes, another one, at Paris Vogue, where I was able to truly flex my French skills. After 3 months at Paris Vogue, I got a freelance position at Italian Vogue, where I was able to cover international fashion weeks in Paris, New York, Milan, and London, sorry. All the while, I was still maintaining my blog, and by then, blogging was really starting to blow up, pun intended, as a lucrative career. Bloggers were being invited to sit front row next to editors, celebrities, and stylists, and I could see the light. I could see that my hard work, my persistence, and dedication to my calling were finally starting to pay off. And by the time I turned 30, after 2 years in Paris, my little blog that started as a hobby was doing so well that I was able to live full-time from it. This blog that might have made some people give me the side eye had suddenly become an amazing career. Won't he do it? And today, almost 17 years since I started my blog, almost your entire lives, I've now received 2 major investments, generated millions in revenue, and went from interning at Vogue to being featured at Vogue. I have a team of contributors from, okay, we can clap for that. We have a team of contributors from around the world who maintain our social media, website, and e-commerce platforms. We contribute to the discourse of fashion by showcasing the beauty of global diversity, all the while giving designers a platform to showcase their talent. I was able to create the job and life of my dreams because I answered the call. The light that each and every one of you has is how you're going to build the life of your dreams. And your trail to that light is yours to blaze. And that's the fun part. You can be as conventional or unconventional as you want, as long as it feels right to you. And it doesn't have to make sense to your friends or your family, because only you know the calling on your life, and only you can answer it. Remember that you have a higher purpose, and that the path you're on is yours alone. My senior yearbook quote was by the late, great, notorious B.I.G., and I would like to share it with you as I sign off today. Stay far from timid, only make moves when your heart's in it, and live the phrase, the sky's the limit. Your light your calling could be the next big, unimaginable thing that will change the world. And soon enough, you'll be at your alma mater, giving the commencement speech, making 18-year-old you so very proud. The sky's the limit, class of 2023. Go forth, answer the call, and shine on. Go Wildcats!